Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Emha. I'm a PhD student at NTU Singapore in Material Science and Engineering. Before I started my PhD, I worked as a researcher at a Japanese company, and before that I also did my research-based master degree at University of Tsukuba, Japan. So I can say that I have my own insight on what is the difference between research in academia and research in industry. Alright, without further ado, here's my take on 5 most distinctive differences between research in academia and research in industry. Number 1 is about value. Let's start from the industry. Research in industry is mainly driven by revenue, from the choice of the research topics, the proposal buildings, the research execution itself, to the productions, all need to be directed toward this revenue. Research itself is a luxurious activity in the business. Obviously, it takes money, resources, and also time. So, a company needs to carefully calculate this luxurious expense. They need to ask questions like, is there a market for this technology? Is it going to be profitable? If yes, then when? When is the return of the investment? Who are the competitors, etc. We need to do research on this background information before even start to write down the technical proposals. And even for futuristic long-term exploratory research, which some companies also have the budget for it, it is also projected to give them revenue, maybe for 10 or 20 years in the future. So the main goal mostly always revenues. But don't get me wrong, the power of these revenue-driven motives can also end up pushing the boundary of science beyond the revenue itself. Take a look at the discovery of blue LEDs by Japanese company called Nichiya Gagaku. At the time, it was really hard to make a blue LEDs to complete the RGB, red, green, and blue combination. Their discovery not only let them boost their revenue but also pushed the boundary of science. The researcher itself even received a Nobel Prize for his discovery. Now, what about research in academia? Well, research in academia is mainly driven by curiosity. The directions of the research is not restricted by boundaries of profits or whatsoever. As long as you have the curiosity about some scientific questions, you can go and pursue the answer to that questions. You are given the freedom to pursue those questions, sometimes just for the sake of the answer itself. And the benefit of the answer is not always clear and not come up immediately. Sometimes you don't need to know how your discovery could benefit others until someone actually using it. For example, the most intuitive way is to take a look at the development of mathematics. The discovery of calculus by Newton and Leibniz, for example. It is very hard to imagine how to make a profit using calculus, right? Yet the calculus is the tools that support the discovery of a lot of things, from semiconductors, LEDs, which I've mentioned, and for now, it also lies behind AI, machine learning, quantum computers, etc. So curiosity, that is the core value of research in academia. But of course, it is also important to have the reasoning behind why you choose your research topic. For what? To get money for your research, to get research grant, right? But again, I think that curiosity is the main value that drives the research in academia. Number 2, flexibility. No, I'm not going to talk about the working style flexibility. Instead, I will talk about the research direction flexibility. In academia, facing an unpredicted or surprising research result is totally fine, no problem at all. Even it can be considered as a breakthrough, right? Why? It is because you have the freedom to redefine your problem and keep your science marching forward. This kind of attitude of being relatively flexible in the direction of research has facilitated much of the progress in fundamental sciences. The discovery of X-rays by Ronson, for example. The name X from X-rays is actually because it was an unknown type of radiation at that time. And after the discovery, the research direction went toward the development of medical radiography, which turned out that it was dangerous for human body. And the discovery of X-rays also led to the discovery of electrons and radioactivity, which considered to be the scientific evolution in 19th century. And because of their curiosity, now we can see a lot of application that built upon X-rays, electrons, and radioactivity. That is the example of the flexibility in redirecting research objectives. Meanwhile, in industry, they rarely have such flexibility in redirecting the research objectives. As I mentioned before, research is a luxurious expense that we expect returning revenues from it. From the beginning of the screening process, they need to do a lot of calculation, right? Only small fraction of the research topic that have most clear and promising potentials are likely to be undertaken. So then when you get an unexpected result, then it requires a whole new calculations of risk and potential benefits. Back to the questions, will it generate revenue, when, how many resources are needed, etc. Number 3, experiences you got. Generally, you will get a lot more exposure by working in the industry. I can say that you can get most of the experience you got in academia by working in the industry with some steroid. First, you will need to work with people from different backgrounds, right? From managers, peers from the same department, across completely different departments like production team, finance team, or even with lawyers to deal with the patents, etc. That will definitely improve not only your technical skills but also your social skills. And even I learned about politics in a company. And secondly, you will get a sense of real-life problem solving. You will experience the reality of how our society has been built by tons of companies with their products. You will realize how difficult it is to bring something out from the lab to the market. How they prepare the product with the time scheduling, budgeting, how complex are the production line, or even how difficult it is to approach and interact with the customers. Third, as a consequence of the strong correlation between research and the product roadmap, sometimes companies need to end the research topic prematurely. If your company decided for a financial or strategic reason to abandon a line of research activities, then that research topic will likely to be curtailed. So the consequence is that you might need to abandon your professional passion for a particular topic, and you have to embrace something entirely new, like completely out of your current expertise. It can be frustrating for some people, but I think that for the long run, this kind of regular changes can be eye-opening, stimulating, and maybe it's good for your future career. Now in academia, you can get all of those, but you have to be proactively doing it. You need to find your own way to connect to a wide range of people, for example. You also need to find your real life problem if you want to. And also you have to take a leap of faith if you want to change your expertise. One thing that you got in academia that hardly get in the industry is the chance to do exploratory research. Well, you might get it in industry, but most likely it is easier to do it in academic research. Number 4, intellectual properties handling. Industry handles intellectual properties more strictly than in academia. The process of publishing a research result is carefully controlled so as not to put the company's intellectual properties at risk. to prevent the disclosure of the secret ingredient and the strategy of the company. They don't want their competitor to know their technology before securing all the patents, for example. So it has an environment where communicating is fast and open within the company, while interaction with the outside world is more restricted. While in academia, the line between college and competitors is very blurred. In the academic world, today's competitor might well be tomorrow's collaborator and vice versa. So the alliances are always shifting. And in academia, it is more open to disclose our work to the world. Oftentimes, the faster the publication is, the better. And researchers in academia tend to not hesitate to disclose the details of the experiment to the community. For example, making our experiment data or code publicly available as an open source is a common practice in academia. But in corporate, it is like Krabby Patty's secret ingredient that should be protected from Mr. Plankton. And lastly, number 5 is project execution. Another aspect that I see quite distinct between research in industry and in academia is the project execution style. In industry, all the activities tend to have well-managed scheduling and evaluation metrics. The research timeline is more clear and more strict than in academia, which has more flexibilities to evolve over time. In industry, also they tend to have layers of hierarchical reporting. This makes projects more well maintained and constantly being evaluated. Is it running on schedule? If it's not, what is the problem? If it's more time, then how it will affect the product delivery, the budget, and those kind of questions. The closer the research topic is to the production stage, the more strict the evaluation will be. I found that this can be a double-edged blade. It can be a driving force to maintain your project to progress as planned, but also it might draw you back since preparing the report itself takes your time, right? And it also gives you a sense of constantly being haunted by deadlines, which I believe is not good for creativity work like research. While in academia, you are the one who controls the progress of your research, right? That is also good and bad actually. And the evaluation is done with minimum hierarchical reporting, usually by your supervisor. Or if you are the supervisor, then you need to report it to the source of your research budget. The good part is that you have more control, which is good for your creativity works, like exploring, trying something new, doing new experiments, etc. But then the drawback is that you may run behind your schedule if you're not good at managing the project. And due to the minimum number of people who do the evaluation, it is hard to notice small mistakes or missteps that might affect your work in the future. Alright, that was my opinion on 5 differences between research in academia and research in industry. For graduate students who are thinking about whether to stay in academia or jump to the industry, I hope this video can be one of your references. Finally, don't like and don't subscribe if it's not beneficial for you. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.